Here at Be Freaking Awesome, we believe that life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary. Join us as we explore what it means to live authentically, grow continuously, and have a blast while doing it. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sami Kinnison. I'm a communication coach who helps people figure out what's standing in the way of saying what they need to say.
Hi, my name is Angela Belford. I'm also one of your co hosts, and I am an executive coach that brings a blend of the somatic processing, that is, things in your body and beliefs that we have stuck in our body, and a strong head for business.
We are going to be talking today about a phrase that you and I both like almost taboo buzz whenever people say it. And anytime somebody says, I should have done this or you should do this, it is sort of like a taboo buzzer. What are we saying here? Like there's an interruption point. And we want to talk about that phrase should and should
You know what?
have.
There's a little
Oh, there's a
media
sound
thing, and
effect.
there's the sound effect. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll edit it in, maybe we won't, so that we'll save your ears. But
Wah.
you guys understand this is a phrase that we want to interrupt. Anytime this is something that's coming up and coming out, there is a invitation to reflect and to pause. And Angela, I know you in particular have some thoughts about like what you can do instead. I as well. Um, can you share why this topic came up as something that you wanted to talk about on the podcast?
It is because I love my little Facebook time hop memories where it will be like 4 years ago you said this thing. And I can't remember if this was this was probably 4 years ago, because 5 years ago, right about now, I don't know that I was this in tuned yet. I should have noted that when I reminded the graphic. But I had posted back in, I think, 2022, instead of saying what you should have done, review your actions and decide what you can do better. And I was like, man, that's a good quote that I posted. And then I look closer and I'm like, oh, I was quoting myself. Literally made a quote graphic of something I had said to somebody in coaching, because they were like, well, if I don't should have, then how am I supposed to get better? And I was like, there we go. So that's kind of where it came up. Ironically, you can find wisps of this way back in Be Freaking Awesome. I was preaching this sermon and beating this drum way back in 2016, and probably earlier if I review some recordings.
So before we go into like what to do, you already kind of teased a little bit at what to do instead, but can we pause and say why should we not say should? What's the reason and the kind of, I don't know, philosophy behind this?
Well, especially when you use the word should have, there is an element of this where you are looking at your past behavior and you are judging critically something that you can't change. So it doesn't matter if you should or shouldn't have done something. Has with it some additional emotional weight of judgment, of shame, of things that are quite frankly, we got enough. There's enough emotional weight in the planet without us adding it onto our own self. And so I think that when we are doing should have, and some people could argue and be like, oh, you're saying the same things. This is semantics. Maybe, but I don't see people when they do what I think you should do instead. I don't see them with the same negativity bias. I don't see us pulling in those same things of like, there's something wrong with me, like there is with that should have. And even when you were using the word should, I should do this or that, it's like there's judgment and expectations. And it's like, I don't know if you should or you shouldn't. Do you want to? Because I promise you, the emotional energy behind want or wish is very different. It's not heavy. It's encouraging, it's light. And so even if you say, "Oh, I should get to that." It's like, I didn't make time for that today. I want to make time for that tomorrow." Like there's just it's an unnecessary weight burden, emotional weight burden. And I think it is just a pattern interrupt. The whole thing we talk about in the invisible edge is these hidden patterns that we don't notice. And when we can interrupt those patterns by noticing how often we say should, then I think it gives us a shot at figuring out what's really going on in our brain.
I would also add, I think that there are there are some times where we're gonna use the word and we kind of mean it in like a hindsight is 2020, and it's my husband and I went to a concert in the park with our kids, and there was a chance of rain. It ended up pouring, and our kids were freaking out, and it was this whole thing. And one could be like, "Well, we probably should have stayed home." You know, I don't necessarily mean it negatively. Then I more mean like hindsight 2020. We took a chance and we did that. When should is coupled with someone, there's this like a prescriptive nature, or like somebody's telling me I need to do this, or there is, I think it kind of goes into a little bit of guess versus ask culture, and there's an assumption that this is what should have happened. This is what, oh, if I would have known better, if I would have been smarter, if I would have been more attuned, or something, I should have done this instead. And also, there are plenty of times where we might say something like, I should have done this, but you didn't know. You genuinely didn't know. I didn't know it was going to actually rain. It could have been a glorious night and sunshiny, and I had no clue. And so then when I find it to be most insidious whenever there's like a voice and you're like, "Oh no, I can name whose voice it is in my head saying, well, you should have done it this way." And is it like a relative, a friend, partner, a not so good person in your life, maybe not a friend, and their voice is the one that's telling you, you should have done it this way. You're like, "Oh, that's it's more burdensome than it needs to be." And so
It
that's the goal, is to interrupt that.
there's some for some reason it brought up the idea of what is wrong with you.
Yeah.
It's that same kind of, you know, segment of the communication pie, if you will, of like
Mhm.
that same you're conveying information that is not going to encourage people to do better. That's the
Right.
thing to me is that I don't think should. And when you say it like you're saying with the we probably should have thought. I had a friend that said there's no such thing as bad weather, there's just bad planning. Like
Mhm.
you didn't bring the right clothing. And so I like sass her a lot whenever I'm not prepared for the weather. I'm just like, um, I'm
That is the
unprepared.
Montessori way also, is that my kids at Montessori, there is no such thing as bad weather. There's bad clothes for the weather is what they'll
Yeah,
say. Like, you're just not appropriately dressed to be in this weather.
yeah, because they still go outside when it's raining, right?
As long as there's no lightning. They have some, like, metal playground equipment, and I do think that's fair to consider putting toddlers on metal playground equipment in lightning.
Yeah,
You have a
that's the same.
safety risk. There's a
That's
safety
fine.
risk there, but if it's just raining, and then the state has some requirements on, like, if it's actually too hot or actually too cold, but they're following the state law guideline. If it was Montessori, they would do it. If it was true, full Montessori with no regulation, they would find ways, and they would, be more equipped for it. So when I really like to use the twist and the phrase, "I wish I wanted to do this," or "I wanted to show up in a different way," because
Mm,
I can acknowledge that there are things that have happened that I didn't that's not how I would have wanted it to happen.
right.
Like, if I made my most ideal plans, I wouldn't have yelled. I would have been in a place where I could have regulated my own. I should have not yelled at my kids. Yeah, sure. I probably shouldn't have yelled at my kids. It is more it it feels kinder to say, "I wish I could have been in a place to have regulated myself better so that I wouldn't have yelled at my kids." Like,
Mm.
that's accurate, and I can reflect even if it's not on the, "What am I gonna do next time?" I can still say, like, "Man,
Oh, I think
I don't
abs-
like that. I wish it could have gone differently." without having to make it mean something like, "What's wrong with you?"
For sure. So I think oftentimes when people push back on the should, they are they think that I'm insinuating we should never take responsibility for our actions. We should never ask for forgiveness, which is the farthest thing from the truth. I absolutely think that ca- we we need to make amends when we have
Yes.
acted in a way that is out of alignment with our character, when we have done something that is not in the way we want to show up, then we absolutely need to apologize. I had a situation, I don't think I've told the story. If I have, thanks for listening again. But I had a situation where I had a friend that had a diagnosis and they told me, and they were in the stage where they were diagnosed, but they didn't know the treatment plan. And 3 weeks later, they text me and say, treatment's going well. And I freaked out. I completely freaked out because I was like, how did I not check on you? And I'm so sorry. And and she was like, no, 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 it's okay. And I said, can you please allow me the opportunity to ask for forgiveness and to express how I'm feeling so that I can be fully a present for you. You don't have to carry my weight. But I said, I didn't act in a way that's in alignment with my character. That really bothers me. That is not my heart. I appreciate that you are giving me grace and that you are willing to forgive me. But if you will just please allow me to apologize because that's not how I want to be. And she said, I accept your apology. And I also know at any time if I pick up the phone and I needed you, I knew you were there. And I'm like, "Well, that's wonderful." And but we absolutely are allowed to own our mistakes and to make amends and say, "This is not the way I want to be." And I also do think that that part of what can help us to have a freaking awesome life and how to improve is that when we take that opportunity to review our in the interactions and say, "How can I do this better in the future?" And maybe we can't do it better in the future because we were just tired or hungry or stressed out or distracted or whatever, the myriad of ways. But I think there are some opportunities to be able to say, now how next time I'm in that scenario, what can I do different?
I think that's the piece that when you say, "I should have done this," it doesn't necessarily help you do that next time. Like,
Right.
stopping there doesn't make a change, and
Yeah.
so, even I think in the, "I want to do this, this is how I wish I would be or how I would show up," there is an element of you can find, like, "Why do I want to do this?" So, I want my kids to be able to handle any weather and to feel prepared in that. That's important to me, or it's not important to me. This is how I want to show up. And there's an element of it that it requires a little bit more mental effort than the easy path of just criticizing yourself, and "I should have done this." But yet, the little bit more mental effort actually can make a difference. If you don't want to stay in that place, here's what you can do instead. But if you don't care, if you stay in that place or if you don't stay in that place, you're probably not listening to the podcast. You're probably somebody who doesn't necessarily want to grow and improve in a lot of ways. And so we then should it is an imperative for us to take a moment to reflect on how we could do it differently so that we don't end up in the same place again,
Yeah,
because
because
otherwise it'll just keep happening.
our little efficient brain will keep doing the same thing. I think there's 2 parts of that. Number 1, if we don't pause and say, "How could I have done this different? How do I want to do it different next time? What is" then when you begin to imagine that future scenario, you get your brain comfortable with that idea. I didn't for a long, long time, I didn't understand the reason why, uh, positive affirmations and visualization works. Like, people would just say, "It does." I mean, literally, there's a book called The Secret because it's like, "It's magic." It's not magic. You know what? Your brain likes to understand what is happening, and your brain likes to predict the outcome, as you recently beautifully demonstrated in one of your talks recently that you gave. where you were talking about like to keep safe, our brain likes to project and guess what is going to happen. And so when we spend time visualizing things in the future, when we spend time imagining how we want things to go, when we spend time thinking about how we want it to go, we get our brain accustomed to that so that it doesn't feel weird. If it's weird for us to apologize to people and then we practice in our mind's eye before we get into that scenario, then it actually makes it easy for our brain. And I mean, you guys know there's stats. I think I used the stat in probably every one of my books. Oh, I don't know if I quoted it in the last book, but they did research where they had people practice free throws and they had people not practice free throws and they had people practice free throws only in their mind. And if people that physically practice improved 24%, and people who mentally practice never touched a basketball improved 23%. Like, that's mind-boggling, and so when you take this moment and think about what you wanna do different, maybe even imagine the scenario happening differently, we actually have a shot at improving.
I also think that if we in order to get to what's gonna happen different, it does require reflection to say what went wrong
Yeah,
and not in like a, "Here's the expectations I'm supposed to meet of the world," but like, "Was I hungry? Was I tired? Was
yeah,
I hormonal? Was something going on?" I One of the things in my season of life that is tricky is that I do want to show up really well for my kids, and I don't want to yell at them for being loud or for having emotions or for doing things. And I don't know if you know this, but if you have ADHD and there's lots of noise and there's lots of movement and things keep going, it's extra hard to stay regulated. And so there's some parts of it where I'm like, this season of life with a 2-year old, a 4-year old, and a 7-year old, my best shot is repair, is because I don't
right.
actually know how to prevent there being noise in my house, there being clutter in my house, there being children that experience irrational and intense emotions about very irrational things sometimes. And so you're like, I don't know how to help you with this. My best shot is repair. And I have recognized that like I'll probably get to a different season where I don't have to be so gracious with myself for being dysregulated. Like I could be more regulated more often. And even with all of the work that I've done, I still, this past Sunday, snapped at my kids and I was like, that's it. No more talking, no more questions, no more fighting. You're going to sit down on the couch and you're going to watch the movie that I pick. And that's what we're doing the rest of the evening. And I made them watch Inside Out so we could learn about our feelings. And it was a whole thing. And
You horrible troll.
yeah, what a punishment to make you guys watch Inside Out. I would watch Inside Out too, whatever. But like, I don't know. Would I have preferred to be in a place where I could be like, "Okay, kiddos, I hear you. You've got a lot going on. We're feeling tired. We've had a lot going on this weekend. Like, let's all take a deep breath together and see how we can reset." Yes, I wish I could have been in that place. Instead, I snapped at everybody. You have to sit still and watch a movie. Nobody really complained that much of all the horrible things I could do to my kids. Um, anyway,
Well, heads up, even if you don't have kids at home and you sometimes just still just get dysregulated because it's just still part of being life, human,
human,
human.
dang it.
Dang it. I hate
I
that.
keep searching for an answer that, like, maybe there will be a point that I can hit where, like, things are just constantly at peace. You know, growth is no bad days, all of these things. And it just keeps coming up that, like, it's not actually realistic to be regulated 100% of the time and to have great days every single day. And it's kind of annoying. That's just my theme of the year. I'm hoping I can get to acceptance and not denial and fighting it and all the other things. So maybe soon enough. Angela, do you have any last thoughts or encouragement for folks as they continue on their shoulding journey?
Sorry, every time we say that, it's like, no, 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 we're not cussing, I promise. Although I think should might need to be considered a bad word.
It's not going to give us an E rating on any of our podcasts, though.
We're not going to get an explicit rating. I would say that you said something. that is I hope people take away, and that is, being kind and gracious with themselves. Uh, Based on talking to the people who listen to our podcast, the ones who do listen regularly, I know a lot of us are on the perfectionist journey, and it sometimes can feel very, very scary to turn loose of a behavior like shooting on ourselves because it feels like that's the only way we're going to keep ourselves in check. The only way we're going to keep ourselves in line. The only way we're going to be motivated. And I'm just here to tell you on the other side, it isn't. It is not motivating. It is actually demotivating because your brain can begin to go, well, it doesn't matter how hard I try, it's never good enough for you.
Yeah.
So please take this with so much love and so much grace that you have an opportunity to actually improve. Shooting on ourselves looks to the past. And what we want to do is actually do something about the future and change how things are happening in the future because you can't fix yesterday.
I like it. Thank you so much, Angela, for the topic for today. I feel like this was fun to dive into. We'll also share the quote that you had and quoting Angela Belford. Why not reshare it with the world? Thanks everyone for listening. We're so grateful for all of you. And until next time, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.